Hi, everyone, and welcome along to the Westferry Times podcast. Really glad you could join us. Thanks for watching Westferry Times. I'm Emily, and today, we're doing a deep dive into something pretty significant that's been happening. It's about the suspension of political party involvement in several major UK Pride events. We've got quite a bit to get through: news reports, statements from the organizers, some analysis, and really our aim today is to understand why this is happening now and, what the fallout might be. And to help us navigate all this, we're joined by Dr. James Walker. He's a well-respected LGBTQ plus rights advocate and political analyst. Welcome.
Thanks for having me on. Glad to be here.
Great. So let's jump right in. We're hearing about some really big names in the Pride calendar making this decision. Which events are we actually talking about here, and what's the main reason they're giving?
Yes, that's right. So for the 2025 events, we're looking at Birmingham Pride, Brighton Pride, Pride in London, and Manchester Pride. All four have announced that political parties won't be formally participating. And the core reason, the thing driving this, is a deep frustration, really. It's about how both the main liberal and conservative parties have been handling transgender rights.
Okay.
Organizers have been quite specific. They've highlighted that recent Supreme Court ruling, the one mandating legal classification based on birth-assigned sex, as a kind of final straw, a major catalyst.
Right.
They see it as a significant setback for trans equality, and, well, they're demanding accountability. They want tangible action from political leaders, not just, supportive words during Pride season.
That feels like a very, very strong message coming from such major organizations. Is this something we're seeing mirrored elsewhere, maybe at smaller events?
Yes, actually. Southampton Pride, for instance, they moved on this earlier. They banned political parties from their 2024 event. And their reasoning was very similar, citing the current political climate. They explicitly mentioned wanting to prioritize the safety and mental well-being of the community.
Right.
So yeah, it does suggest it's part of perhaps a broader feeling within the movement right now.
Okay, so the Pride organizers have made their stance clear. How have the political parties reacted? Let's start maybe with Labor.
Sure. Well, LGBT plus Labor put out a statement. They expressed disappointment about the Supreme Court decision, and they reaffirmed their commitment to trans equality.
I sense a but coming.
Well, yes, because, many activists and LGBTQ plus organizations feel Labor isn't really delivering for the trans community. There's criticism, especially after their leaders seem to support that same court decision that's caused so much anger. So you have the official statement of support, but on the ground, it's not necessarily landing as genuine or sufficient for many people.
I see. And the conservatives, have they faced similar bans or reactions?
They have, yes. Warwickshire Pride, for example, specifically banned the Conservative Party from their events, and they directly cited transphobic hate as the reason. They linked it to comments made by some senior figures during the Conservative Party conference.
Wow.
So it shows a very direct line being drawn by organizers between political rhetoric and their decision to exclude parties.
This really does feel like a pivotal moment. To get a better handle on it, maybe we could look back a bit. What's the history here between Pride and politics? Has it always been this sort of protest-focused?
That's a really important point, because Pride started as a protest, absolutely.
Yeah.
We have to remember the Stonewall riots back in '69. That was a reaction, a powerful one against police harassment and discrimination. It wasn't a parade initially.
Right. Not just a celebration.
Exactly. And even here in the UK, think about lesbians and gays support the miners in the 1980s. That was a hugely significant moment of political solidarity, linking LGBTQ plus rights with other social justice movements.
Yeah, I remember the film.
Precisely. Now, over the years, Pride has shifted. It became more mainstream. You saw more corporate involvement, more politicians marching, and some felt that maybe diluted the original activist spirit.
Okay.
So these recent bans, you could argue, signal a potential return to those roots, a demand for real allyship, not just participation.
That context is really helpful. So given this move, this potential shift back, how is it being received within the wider LGBTQ plus community? Is there consensus?
Not entirely. It's quite mixed, actually, which isn't too surprising on complex issues. There's definitely a lot of support for the decision. Many feel it's a necessary stand. They see it as pushing back against political complacency or, worse, actively harmful policies regarding trans people. But on the other side, you have people expressing concern. They worry that closing the door to political parties might reduce the chances for dialogue, for lobbying, for, making the case directly to politicians at Pride.
Yeah, I can see that argument too. Less visibility, perhaps.
Potentially. That's the fear for some. Is it better to have them there, even if you're challenging them, or not have them there at all?
Hmm.
But I think the dominant feeling, certainly from the organizers making these decisions, is that the time for just symbolic gestures is over. The demand now is for concrete policy changes, things that make a real difference.
So, thinking about the future then, what might the longer-term impact of these decisions be on Pride itself? Could it change the nature of these events?
I think it could, yes. We might see perhaps a renewed focus on grassroots activism, maybe more community-led initiatives, possibly less emphasis on the, huge corporate sponsorships and parades we've seen dominate recently.
A bit more political, less party.
Something like that. Perhaps Pride becoming more explicitly a platform for advocacy on specific issues again, rather than primarily a celebration, although celebration is still key, of course.
And the message this sends to politicians and political parties, it seems pretty direct.
Oh, absolutely. It's sending a very clear signal. Support can't just be a rainbow lanyard worn once a year. These Pride groups are saying, our participation, our platform, it's conditional on you taking meaningful action.
Accountability.
Exactly. It puts the onus back on the parties to demonstrate they're serious about advancing and protecting LGBTQ+ rights, especially for the most marginalized.
Do you think this will actually force a change in political strategies? Will parties have to work harder to engage?
It's definitely a significant prompt for reflection, I'd say. A wake-up call. Parties might need to find different ways to engage, perhaps more direct consultations, maybe more focus on specific policy commitments, rather than just showing up.
So, less photo ops, more policy work.
That seems to be the demand. To regain that trust, to be invited back into those spaces, they'll likely need to show, not just tell, that they're enacting positive change. They need to demonstrate concrete actions.
It's certainly a situation we'll need to keep watching. Thank you so much for walking us through all of that. Your insights have been really valuable in understanding the different layers here.
It was my pleasure. It's
Sure.
an important discussion to be having.
And a huge thank you to all of you listening and watching us on the Westferry Times podcast. If you found this deep dive useful, please do give it a like, share it if you can, and definitely subscribe to the Westferry Times channel so you don't miss our future analyses. Stay curious, everyone. Stay informed. We'll see you next time. Goodbye for now.